Hello and welcome to another episode from the water's edge. You catch up with us into what appears to be the first sort of better fish of the session, and what's happened already is we got up nice and early this morning and we've come down to Bream Lake, which for this part of the country is quite a historic venue really, and it's quite well known for some good bream fishing. So that's what we're here to hopefully show you today. So traditional estate lake, grounds all around us. You got your dam wall down there to the right, and then up to the left, quite a long way up there, is the big Bream Hall, which is quite famous. People quite often take a little walk around there. So as far as places to go to fish, it is one of the better places to sit and spend your time. But we've been here a while now, the sun's up, it's a glorious morning. As I said, we got up nice and early, we got the bait out, and it just takes, as it quite often does with bream fishing, takes that little bit longer for the bigger fish to turn up. We've had a few skimmers and the odd bits and pieces, and hopefully we're now going to get into a few of these. So let's not keep them out too long. We'll pop him back and then we'll show you a bit more about what we've already done and what we are doing for the rest of the day. Well, there we are, he's gone back nicely, so hopefully on to bigger and better things from now on. So basically, as I was saying a moment ago, we got up nice and early this morning and we've come down to Bream, which is a real traditional big estate lake. Now what you find on these sort of venues is you have to fish at medium to long range, should we say. So hopefully in today's episode, that's what we're going to be showing you to do, is how I would approach such fishing at, let's say, medium range, what we are today, and if you were going to go further into the long range. So what we done, first thing to do when we got down, is we set the gear up and we had to get some bait out there. Everyone knows bream are massive shoal fish, and it's a case of you need to get the feed there, hopefully start catching some fish, and you can hold them. So the first thing I've done was put a big cage feeder on. I've probably put out 10 or 12 of these this morning on the spot. I've got a lovely sort of dead tree right out in front of me. I've found the area, clipped up, and put 10 of these out there before we started. And as we said earlier, we had a nice little run of skimmers, and then that was the first bigger fish that we just put back. So hopefully we're going to be tackling more of those as the day goes on. So let's have a little look at the setup, because that is important. It's probably the most important thing that we're trying to show you today about this style of fishing. Now I'm probably only fishing 60 yards today, so it's not long range by any distance, but I'd still use this if I was fishing longer. So start off, we've got a 12-foot power feeder, and that's just going to allow me to chuck the distances I need. And then we come on to a big front drag 4000 reel, and as always, really important to load your line right up to the front of the spool. But the main thing today is I've got 6-pound main line, which is just going to allow me to get those distances. But the biggest thing I could say is, unfortunately the venue doesn't allow us to do it today, but if you can, I would fish a braided main line with a shock leader. That's going to help you in two reasons. One, the thin diameter is going to get the cast out there a lot easier. We've got a headwind today. If I had braid on, that would fly. And second of all, because you've got a lot of line out there for stretch wise, with the braid you'd get better bite detection. But as we're not allowed to today, we've just gone for a strong, reliable 6-pound main line. That then comes down to the feeder setup, which is really basic and simple. You've got the free running feeder, and again, very important, we've got the nose, what I like, the bullet feeders I like to call them. And you can get different styles of these. You can actually get the metal ones with a sort of cone shape on top that really cut through the water. So if you're going mega distances, I would step up to those. But anything with the weight on the end, so basically it flies out in that direction, it keeps everything straight and direct where you're going to go. That's important for long range fishing. That then comes down onto, I actually just use a little chod sleeve, which is designed for carp fishing but works perfectly for this, because as you can see, your feeder slides onto it, and with that constant pull of long range casting, this obviously tapered sleeve at the end here is just allowing that swivel, something to rub up against, so it's not constantly grating on the line and creating a weak spot when you can continuously casting out there. And then we come on to about a 2-foot hook link. The reason why it's so long is because it's quite silty out there, so I want something that's relatively long so I'm not burying in the silt when it goes out from there. Comes on to quick stopped hair rig, which again is fairly important, but we'll show you how we're putting bait on in a moment. So what I'm going to do is perhaps bait this one up now, because what I don't want to do is leave the swim for too long and let all them bream come in, mop up all the bait we've got out there, and then find out they've moved on already. So I'm going to get a cast out there, and then I've got a couple more things to talk to you about, like baits and bits and pieces like that. So I'm loading my feeder, and I'm just going to get this rod back on that spot. So just pick your marker, hit that clip, and I'm just going to let that settle there. That line's going to sink, and then we'll start fishing properly in a moment. But that's more just to keep that bait going in that spot and hopefully holding the fish. So that moves us nicely onto the bait, and basically, as you can hopefully see on the bait tail, I've got a massive array of baits, a little bit of everything really. But the main thing behind that is the fact that it's real small food particles, especially the squat. A lot of people don't use squat, but tiny little food particles, and what that's going to do is keep them fish in my peg for longer. And what I'm doing is just constantly casting every 5 or 10 minutes to hopefully hold them fish there and keep them where I want them to be. Once they move in on you, they really do shoal up. So we'll carry on fishing for a bit, and then we'll show you how we're loading the feeder in a second. But hopefully in the meantime, this tip's going to swing round. So that worked out pretty perfectly, to be honest. I've just chucked that rod out there while I was talking to you, and 2 or 3 minutes later it swung round and we're into another fish. So I'm going to just concentrate on getting this in. He's coming pretty close now, and then we're going to show you a bit more about the baits and how we load the feeder, and quite importantly that hooking of the worm with that little quick stop. So let's just get this fish in. There we are, he's in. Oh, the hook's just popped that in the net. And that is how you know you've been bream fishing. Quite important, make sure you pull your line tight, just flick that off for the next cast. No, eating it as well. But yeah, that's traditional for bream. You get it at the odd occasion with tench as well, but certainly with bream, that's the classic sign that you've had a fish. And there we are. Like I said, not as big. A little bit big in the skimmer though. We won't keep them out too long. We'll get another bait, then we'll show you a bit more about how we're loading the feeder, because that's quite important as well, and what's going in the feeder. So let's just pop him back. And there we are. So let's have a little bit look about how we're loading this feeder, and also how we're putting the bait on, which we'll start with. You always bait your hook before you load your feeder. So we're not actually hooking the worms today, we're actually hair rigging them with a quick stop. So basically all you need to do is pop your quick stop onto your needle right at the head end. Just pop the quick stop in, thread it up, I don't know, about 1/2 centimetre, and come out the other end. So basically your hook is free for 2 reasons. First of all, it stays on a lot better. That can never come off unless the fish really pulls it off. That's going to stay on there forever. And second of all, I'm sure you've all done it, the amount of times you get a bite, fish comes off and you reel in and that sort of worm is wrapped around your hook point. Everyone's had it, there's nothing you can do about it, and especially casting long ways, that does happen quite often. But with this hair rigging, that sort of eliminates that, and I haven't had that happen with this. So that's why we do it in that fashion, especially if you chuck it a long way. Or even better, fishing on rivers, that works really well when that spin tangles the hook up as well. So let's load this feeder. Now what I'm doing is, obviously it's a ground bait feeder, but I don't really want the ground bait in there, so I'll literally, the only reason for that is the carrier. So what I'm doing is everything on my table: corn, squat, pinch of casters, chopped worm and some pellets. They all go in right on top there, and I'm loading all of the food items, as much food items as I can get in that feeder. And the ground bait, literally I just want enough so it can carry it. And that is really important because, like I said, they're shoal fish, and all these little particles we've got are keeping them grubbing around for a long while. So all them squat, them casters, them mats, they're looking in there, and they're not just hoovering everything up in one go and then you're losing them, because you will find it every single time you're fishing for the shoal of bream. They'll come in, wipe you out and leave you, but we're putting little particles in, you can hold them there for a bit longer. So that cast is out there now. Hopefully in the next few minutes that's going to swing around again. And another thing to mention, with casting as far as we are casting, if you're like me and you forget your distance sticks, because obviously you need to make sure if you do have a crack off you can get back to that spot. You just spend all that money on your bait, you put a nice bit out there, steady run of fish, something happens, you lose where that mark is, and there we are. There's a fish on straight away, and you lose that marker, and then how do you get back to it? So normally what you would do is you'd have distance sticks and you'd wrap round and count how many wraps you were fishing out. But as I said, if you're like me, Mr. Forgetful, you forget that and you actually just count your reel turns. So basically when my handler's there, 1 turn, and I'm fishing 60 turns today, so if the worst does happen, I do crack off, it's not too much of an issue because I can just put 60 turns on my reel, we're back on the same spot. Let's see if we can just coach this one in. Again, doesn't feel massive, but that's the importance of what I was saying, of getting back out there quickly and having a lot of food items there. That last fish I had, there's probably bits and pieces left for it to grub around on. Here's the splash of this cast, and then you're into another fish. There we are, that's much more like it, and the reason why we're here today, to catch some of these bigger bream that Blickling is well known for. It's well hooked, and as I was saying on the way in, it didn't feel anywhere near as big as that, but that is a proper old dark warrior. I know bream aren't renowned for the best fighting fish, but like I said, it certainly didn't feel like it was this size, because that's a cracking bream. And I said before, a proper estate lake fish. They sort of old and wily, dark bronze, cracking fish. And I'm going to slip him back now, and we'll get another bait out there, because I'm pretty sure now there's some fish out there to be had, and we could have some good action. There we are, another slab. I'll give you one guess to why they're called that. They're just like a big paving slab, or dustbin lid people call them, but cracking fish to catch. Like I said, real shoal fish. Don't give you the biggest scrap, but you can guarantee with them that they give you some of the best sport, because they do come in numbers. What a great fish. Let's get him back. Well, they're still queuing up out there. We've had a real good run of fish over the last few hours, and we've got another one coming towards the net now. It doesn't feel very big, but basically all we've done is just kept consistently casting that same spot, kept the bait going in, and the fish have really played ball. They've come in nicely, settled on the feed, and like I said, once they're there, as long as you've got enough to hold them, they tend to stay there. So let's just get this one in. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to call this one the last fish for the camera. Just going to whip this hook out. I'm going to carry on fishing for another hour or so probably. See if we can have a few more of these lovely Blickling bream out. But it has been a cracking session. Wee, calm down. Not happy for us to say bye, but as I was saying, I'm going to carry on fishing. Cracking down. How do you know when you've had a good day's bream fishing? You're covered in slime and you don't smell too pleasant. So, but it's all in the nature of a good day's fishing, and that will certainly do for me. So as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again on the next one.